He met his future wife when she was only 14 years old. His own mother communicated with him using a private baby talk language well into his adulthood. One famous co-star engaged in such an intense affair with him, it nearly shattered his carefully constructed personal life. Another girlfriend lived inside his Graceland mansion for over 4 years, becoming a primary gagoler during some of his most turbulent times. His last fiancée was the person who made the tragic discovery of his body on his bathroom floor. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was a man whose life was profoundly shaped by the women who moved through his orbit, women whose influence echoed through his music, his choices, and his ultimate destiny. Their stories are woven into the fabric of his legend, revealing facets of the man behind the icon, a man fiercely loved, deeply dependent, capable of great passion, and marked by immense tragedy. These are the women whose presence left an indelible mark on the king. Number 5. The Last Love and the Tragic Discovery. Ginger Alden entered Elvis Presley's life during its final chapter. It was November 1976 when Elvis's 8-year-old daughter, Lisa Marie, initially introduced them. Ginger's sister, Terry, happened to be the reigning Miss Tennessee, and she, along with Ginger and another sister, Rosemary, were invited to Graceland for a late-night tour by George Klein, a longtime friend of Elvis. Elvis was immediately taken with Ginger, a 20-year-old beauty queen herself. She had been crowned Miss Mid-South Fair. Despite the 2-decade age gap, a relationship quickly blossomed. Elvis was known for showering his romantic interests with gifts, and Ginger was no exception. He lavished her with jewelry, cars, and clothes. He even paid off her mother's mortgage. Their courtship was a whirlwind, existing within the strange, nocturnal bubble of Elvis's later years. He often stayed awake all night and slept during the day, a pattern Ginger adapted to. They traveled together, Elvis taking her on his private jet, the Lisa Marie, for impromptu trips. She accompanied him on his final concert tours, witnessing the adoration of his fans, but also the increasing signs of his declining health. He proposed to Ginger in his favorite room at Graceland, the Jungle Room, on January 26, 1977. He presented her with a massive diamond ring, featuring a large center stone surrounded by smaller diamonds. The engagement was significant. Elvis hadn't proposed to anyone since Priscilla. He spoke of wedding plans, sometimes suggesting a Christmas wedding. Ginger spent a significant amount of time at Graceland during their roughly 9-month relationship. She described Elvis as often generous and playful, but also prone to mood swings and increasingly reliant on prescription medications. She was present during periods when his health was visibly failing, noting his struggles with weight, lethargy, and insomnia. She recounted instances where he would read spiritual books aloud to her for hours, searching for meaning and peace. Their relationship existed under the constant watch of Elvis's inner circle, the Memphis Mafia, some of whom reportedly viewed her with suspicion, perhaps seeing her as another temporary fixture or someone interested in Elvis for his fame and wealth. On the evening of August 15, 1977, Elvis and Ginger returned to Graceland after a late-night visit to the dentist. Elvis was reportedly excited about his upcoming tour, scheduled to begin in Portland, Maine just 2 days later. He couldn't sleep and told Ginger around 7 a.m. on August 16th that he was going into his bathroom to read. This was not unusual. Elvis often retreated to his large, opulent bathroom suite to read or relax. Ginger remained in the bedroom and eventually fell asleep. When she awoke later that afternoon, around 1:30 p.m. or 2 p.m., she realized Elvis wasn't beside her. She knocked on the bathroom door and called his name. Receiving no response, she opened the door. Inside, she found Elvis Presley, lying face down on the floor, near the toilet, unresponsive. He had apparently collapsed while reading. Ginger screamed, alerting Elvis's aunt, Delta Mae Biggs, and Al Strada, a member of the household staff. Chaos ensued as they tried to revive him and called for help. Joe Esposito, Elvis's road manager and close friend, arrived and attempted CPR. An ambulance was summoned, rushing Elvis to Baptist Memorial Hospital. Despite frantic efforts by medical personnel, Elvis Presley was pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m. on August 16, 1977. Ginger Alden, the young woman who had been his fiancée for just under 7 months, was the last person to see him alive and the first to find him deceased. Her discovery marked the sudden, shocking end of an era. In the years following his death, Ginger largely retreated from the intense public spotlight, eventually writing a book about her time with Elvis, offering her perspective on the final months of the King's life. Her presence signifies the closing moments, the abrupt silence after the years of roaring crowds and flashing lights. Number 4. Linda Thompson. The devoted caregiver during the difficult years. Linda Thompson entered Elvis Presley's orbit shortly after his separation from Priscilla. In July 1972, Elvis attended a private movie screening at the Memphian Theater in Memphis. Bill Browder, later known as T.G. Shepard, brought along Linda Thompson, the reigning Miss Tennessee Universe. Elvis, then 37, was immediately captivated by the 22-year-old beauty queen. She was intelligent, articulate, and possessed a wholesome beauty that appealed to him. Their connection was swift, and just a few weeks later, Linda moved into Graceland. She would remain his primary romantic partner and live-in companion for the next 4.5 years, a period marked by both lingering superstardom and Elvis's increasing physical and emotional struggles. Linda quickly became a fixture in Elvis's life, not just a girlfriend, but a constant presence, a confidant, and often a caregiver. She adapted to his eccentric lifestyle, the nocturnal hours, the spontaneous trips, the house full of friends and employees. She traveled with him extensively, joining him on tour buses, private jets, and in hotel suites across the country during his demanding concert schedule. She witnessed the incredible energy exchange between Elvis and his audiences, the sheer power of his stage presence even as his health began to show signs of strain. She was there for the highs, the successful Vegas runs, the adoring crowds, the moments of generosity and playfulness that defined one side of Elvis. However, Linda also experienced the challenging realities of Elvis's life during this era. His dependence on prescription drugs for various ailments, sleep problems, pain management, mood regulation became increasingly apparent. Linda has spoken openly about her concerns regarding his medication use and her efforts to help him manage or reduce his intake, often flushing pills down the toilet or trying to substitute placebos. She described his health issues, including weight gain, high blood pressure, digestive problems, and general lethargy, which sometimes impacted his ability to perform. She became deeply involved in his day-to-day care, ensuring he ate, trying to regulate his sleep, and providing emotional support during his bouts of insecurity or paranoia. Living inside the Graceland bubble meant navigating the complex dynamics of Elvis's entourage, the Memphis Mafia. Linda formed bonds with some members, but also felt the pressures and scrutiny that came with being the king's girlfriend. She tried to create a sense of normalcy within the extraordinary circumstances, decorating their Graceland quarters and attempting to maintain a stable home environment. She was known for her loyalty and her genuine affection for Elvis. She shared his love for spiritual exploration, often reading books on religion and philosophy with him late into the night. Despite the difficulties, their relationship contained moments of deep connection and shared experiences. He showered her with gifts, including jewelry and cars, and relied on her presence. By late 1976, the strain of Elvis's lifestyle and health problems took a toll on their relationship. Linda has stated that she wanted a more normal life and grew weary of the constant demands and anxieties associated with Elvis's world. She felt she could no longer effectively help him battle his dependencies and health issues. The decision to leave was painful. They parted ways amicably in November 1976, shortly before Elvis met Ginger Alden. Linda moved out of Graceland, seeking to rebuild her own life. Despite the breakup, she maintained affection for Elvis. After his death less than a year later, Linda expressed profound sadness. In the years since, she has occasionally shared insights into her time with Elvis, often highlighting his vulnerability and the immense pressures he faced. Her lengthy tenure at Graceland during a critical period provides a crucial perspective on the challenges that consumed Elvis in his later years, creating a relationship built on deep affection but ultimately strained by the overwhelming complexities of his declining health and insulated existence. She wasn't just a girlfriend, she was a witness and a support system during a descent he seemed unable to halt. Number 3. Anne-Margaret. The fiery co-star who matched his spark. When Elvis Presley met Anne-Margaret Olsen on the set of Viva Las Vegas in the summer of 1963, sparks didn't just fly, they practically ignited the studio. Elvis was the established king of rock and roll, a global phenomenon navigating his post-Army Hollywood career. Anne-Margaret was a rising star, a vibrant Swedish-American actress, singer, and dancer, known for her electrifying energy, famously showcased in the previous year's hit film, Bye Bye Birdie. Their chemistry was immediate and undeniable, both on screen and off. Viva Las Vegas became one of Elvis's most successful and fondly remembered films, largely due to the palpable connection between its two leads. Their musical numbers together, like The Lady Loves Me and the title track, crackled with playful flirtation and genuine synchronicity. They moved together with an almost telepathic understanding, mirroring each other's energy in a way rarely seen with Elvis's other female co-stars. Behind the scenes, their connection deepened into a passionate and intense love affair. Friends and colleagues noted how similar they were, both dynamic performers, somewhat shy off stage, fiercely loyal, and possessing a shared sense of humor. Anne-Margaret seemed to understand Elvis in a way few others did. She matched his energy, his love for motorcycles, speed, and late-night adventures. They were frequently seen riding motorcycles together around Los Angeles and Las Vegas. She nicknamed him Eb-E, and he reportedly called her Rusty, after the character she played in the film. Their relationship was described as fiery fun and deeply emotional. For Elvis, who was already unofficially committed to the young Priscilla Bowley back in Memphis, the affair with Anne Margaret represented a powerful, perhaps conflicting connection with a woman who was his peer in the entertainment world. The intensity of their relationship quickly became fodder for gossip columns. The press dubbed Anne Margaret the female Elvis, highlighting their shared charisma and performing style. This publicity caused significant friction. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's notoriously controlling manager, disliked any situation he couldn't fully orchestrate. He worried that the intense focus on Elvis and Anne Margaret's romance overshadowed the film itself and, more importantly, threatened the carefully crafted image of Elvis as a wholesome bachelor potentially settling down with Priscilla. Reports surfaced suggesting Parker actively tried to cool the relationship, or at least manage the publicity surrounding it. There was even a rumored incident where the press hinted at an engagement between Elvis and Anne Margaret, possibly fueled by Anne Margaret's camp, which allegedly infuriated both Elvis and the Colonel. The affair lasted for about a year, overlapping with the time Elvis was seriously courting Priscilla, who was living at Graceland under strict rules while finishing her schooling. This duality created immense pressure. Elvis was deeply involved with Anne Margaret, discussing marriage with her according to some accounts, while simultaneously building a future with Priscilla. Eventually, the demands of his commitment to Priscilla, possibly combined with pressure from Colonel Parker and the complexities of two high-profile careers, led to the end of the affair. The breakup was reportedly heartbreaking for both of them. Elvis ultimately proceeded with his plans to marry Priscilla, a decision that solidified his public image, but perhaps closed the door on a different kind of partnership. Despite the end of their romance, Elvis and Anne Margaret maintained a unique and enduring bond. They remained friends, respecting each other's careers and personal lives. Anne Margaret attended Elvis's Las Vegas opening shows and his funeral. It's famously documented that throughout the rest of his life, whenever Anne Margaret opened a show in Las Vegas, she would receive a guitar-shaped floral arrangement from Elvis. This continued until his death in 1977. Anne Margaret rarely spoke publicly about their relationship in detail, while Elvis was alive, maintaining a respectful discretion. Years later, in her autobiography, she described their connection as a powerful force, acknowledging the deep love they shared. Their affair stands out as a significant chapter in Elvis's romantic history, a passionate encounter with an equal, a vibrant connection that sizzled on screen and burned brightly if briefly behind the scenes, leaving a lasting impression on both stars. She represented a different path, a fiery spark that challenged the carefully managed narrative of his life. Number 2. Priscilla Presley, the teenage sweetheart who became his wife and gatekeeper. Priscilla Bowley entered Elvis Presley's life when she was remarkably young. It was September 13, 1959, in Bad Nauheim, West Germany, where Elvis was stationed during his service in the U.S. Army. Elvis was 24 years old, already the biggest star in the world, temporarily removed from his kingdom. Priscilla was just 14, the stepdaughter of U.S. Air Force Captain Paul Beaulieu, who was also stationed there. A friend of Elvis's, Curry Grant, met Priscilla at the Eagles Club, a local hangout, and asked if she'd like to meet the singer. Intrigued, and with her parents' cautious permission, she went to a party at Elvis's rented house. Elvis was immediately charmed by the shy, dark-haired teenager. He played piano for her, including the song, "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" Despite the significant age difference and her youth, Elvis pursued a friendship with her. Their relationship developed under the watchful eyes of Priscilla's parents and Elvis's own entourage. He saw her regularly during the remainder of his time in Germany. He reportedly saw in her a potential ideal partner, someone young and innocent whom he could mold into his perfect woman. He was concerned about the influences of Hollywood and wanted someone untouched by the industry. Before leaving Germany in March 1960, Elvis assured Priscilla and her parents of his honorable intentions. They stayed in touch through letters and phone calls over the next 2 years. Then, in 1962, Elvis persuaded Priscilla's parents to let her visit him in Los Angeles. After that visit, he convinced them to allow her to move to Memphis to finish her senior year of high school, promising she would live with his father Vernon and stepmother Dee in their home near Graceland, not at Graceland itself, and that she would graduate from a respectable school, Immaculate Conception High School. However, Priscilla soon ended up living at Graceland, albeit under Elvis's strict rules and supervision. Her life became entirely centered around him. Elvis dictated her hair color, dyed black to match his, her makeup style, heavy eyeliner, and her clothing choices, often favoring outfits that complemented his own style. She was expected to be available whenever he was home from filming or touring, adapting to his nocturnal schedule and waiting for his attention. Her education continued, but her world shrank to become Elvis's world. He was protective and possessive, limiting her contact with the outside world and shaping her into the woman he envisioned. He famously told her he wanted to preserve her virginity until marriage. They finally became engaged shortly before Christmas 1966. Elvis and Priscilla married on May 1, 1967, in a brief private ceremony at the Alden Hotel in Las Vegas. The wedding was orchestrated largely by Colonel Tom Parker to maximize publicity while minimizing disruption to Elvis's schedule. It was followed by a press conference and a lavish breakfast reception. Priscilla wore a white silk chiffon gown she reportedly designed herself, topped with a 3-foot tulle veil secured by a rhinestone crown. Elvis wore a black paisley silk brocade tuxedo. Exactly 9 months later, on February 1, 1968, their only child, Lisa Marie Presley, was born. The arrival of their daughter brought joy, but the pressures of Elvis's career and lifestyle soon strained the marriage. Life as Mrs. Elvis Presley was not the fairy tale it might have seemed. Elvis was frequently away on tour or making movies. His demanding schedule, coupled with his well-documented infidelities with co-stars and fans, created distance between them. Priscilla, still young, often felt isolated and lonely within the confines of Graceland or their Los Angeles homes. She craved a more normal life and her own identity outside of being simply Elvis's wife. She began to explore her own interests, including taking karate lessons, where she eventually met instructor Mike Stone, with whom she began an affair. Elvis also continued his relationships with other women. The couple grew increasingly distant. They separated in February 1972 and finalized their divorce on October 9, 1973. Despite the end of their marriage, Elvis and Priscilla remained connected, primarily through their shared love for Lisa Marie. They were often seen together at school events or holidays, maintaining a friendly co-parenting relationship. Priscilla's influence extended far beyond their marriage. After Elvis's death in 1977, his estate was dwindling due to mismanagement and high expenses. Graceland itself faced potential sale. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, passed away in 1979, leaving Priscilla, along with the National Bank of Commerce in Memphis and Joseph Hanks, as co-executors of the estate, held in trust for Lisa Marie. Priscilla made the crucial decision to open Graceland to the public in 1982. This move proved to be a phenomenal success, transforming the home into a major tourist attraction and securing the financial future of the estate. She became the driving force behind Elvis Presley Enterprises, EPE, carefully managing his image and legacy, turning his enduring fame into a thriving business that continues to generate substantial revenue. Her business acumen and dedication ensured that Elvis's cultural impact would be preserved and celebrated for generations. From the teenage girl captivated in Germany to the wife and mother, and finally to the astute businesswoman safeguarding his legacy, Priscilla Presley's journey with Elvis was leaving an unparalleled and lasting mark on his life story and his enduring presence in the world. Number 1. Gladys Presley. The mother whose love shaped and haunted him. Gladys Love Smith Presley was without question the central figure in Elvis Presley's early life and arguably the most profound influence throughout his entire existence. Born in 1912, into a poor farming family in Pontotoc County, Mississippi, Gladys married Vernon Presley in 1933. On January 8, 1935, in a small two-room house in East Tupelo, Mississippi, built by Vernon himself, Gladys gave birth to twin boys. The first, Jesse Garon Presley, was stillborn. The second, Elvis Aaron Presley, survived. This loss deeply affected Gladys, and perhaps intensified the already incredibly close bond she formed with her surviving son. Throughout Elvis's childhood, marked by poverty and frequent moves between Tupelo and later Memphis, Gladys was his constant companion, protector, and confidant. The relationship between Gladys and Elvis was exceptionally close, often described as symbiotic. Vernon Presley often worked odd jobs or was away seeking employment, leaving Gladys and Elvis to rely heavily on each other. They developed their own private world, complete with pet names and even a form of baby talk they continued to use well into Elvis's adulthood. Gladys was fiercely protective of her son, perhaps overly so due to the loss of Jesse Garon and their precarious financial situation. She walked him to school daily, fearful something might happen to him. She worried constantly about his health and well-being. Elvis, in turn, adored his mother. He aimed to please her, often stating his primary motivation for seeking success was to buy her a big house and rescue her from a life of hardship. Gladys encouraged Elvis's early interest in music. She saved money to buy him his first guitar for his 11th birthday, though accounts differ on whether he initially wanted a rifle. She took him to services at the Assembly of God Church, where he was exposed to the passionate gospel music that would profoundly influence his own style. She recognized his talent and nurtured his dreams, even when others might have dismissed them as fanciful. When the family moved to Memphis in 1948, seeking better opportunities, they struggled, living in public housing projects. Gladys worked various jobs, including as a seamstress and a hospital aide, to help make ends meet. Through it all, her focus remained steadfastly on Elvis. Elvis's explosive rise to fame in the mid-1950s brought the financial security he had always craved for his family. But it also brought immense stress, particularly for Gladys. She had desperately wanted a better life for her son, but the sheer scale of his stardom overwhelmed her. She worried incessantly about his safety amidst the frenzy of crowds. She disliked the constant travel that took him away from her, and was uncomfortable with the changes fame brought to their lives. The move to Graceland in 1957, the large mansion Elvis bought primarily for her, should have been a dream come true, but Gladys reportedly never felt entirely comfortable there, missing the simpler life and closer community they once knew. She was intensely proud of Elvis, but also deeply anxious about the world he now inhabited. Gladys's health began to decline rapidly as Elvis's fame grew. She struggled with liver problems, later diagnosed as hepatitis, likely exacerbated by stress, poor diet, and possibly the use of diet pills or alcohol, though the extent of this is debated. While Elvis was away on Army duty, stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, before deploying to Germany, Gladys became acutely ill. Elvis was granted emergency leave to rush back to Memphis in August 1958. He was devastated to find his beloved mother gravely ill in the hospital. Gladys Presley died of heart failure related to her liver issues on August 14, 1958, at the age of 46. Elvis was inconsolable. The death of his mother shattered Elvis. Those close to him described his grief as overwhelming and visceral. He sobbed uncontrollably at her funeral, reportedly saying things like, "She's all I lived for." He never truly recovered from her loss. Many believe Gladys's death created a void in Elvis's life that he spent the rest of his years trying to fill, seeking comfort in relationships, spirituality, and unfortunately, prescription drugs. He kept her memory alive at Graceland, preserving her room almost as she left it. He spoke of her often, sometimes tearfully, even years later. The intense, protective, all-encompassing love of Gladys Presley shaped the boy who became the king. Her unwavering support fueled his ambition. Her anxieties reflected the dangers of his unprecedented fame, and her premature death left an indelible scar on his soul, haunting him until his own final days. Her influence was foundational, the emotional bedrock upon which the complex legend of Elvis Presley was built.